Welcome back. Our thing of the day tonight is our horror show of the day, and the horror is taking place in Mayflower, Arkansas, where people are sending home videos of the huge spill of a heavy crude from a ruptured Exxon pipeline. Now, the resident who took this footage said the smell is unbelievable, and aerial photographer Adam Randall said the reek was overwhelming even at his high altitude. After this footage was taken, you should know, the FAA forbid flying over the area, which means, my friends, either it's toxic at an extremely high height or it's just something your government does not want you to see. What other government services do you guys worry about that aren't getting the same kind of attention?
National parks.
Go on.
Yeah, they're going to cut Old Faithful to 2 eruptions a day. Who wants that, people? Come on.
I mean, anything with kids, I say give all the money to the kids, man, because they will kill us.
Well,
so you want to keep them busy. You want to keep them
Right.
busy. And plus, they got to take care of us once we get old.
They got $2.6 million from the Holocaust Museum. It's true.
Yeah.
The director said he was just following orders, but that's... wait a minute. Is it still too soon?
One thing people aren't complaining about much, it's never too soon for a Holocaust. The IRS also sent out furlough notices. If the IRS has to slow down, is that a problem or is that a big problem?
It's
I mean, that really is how the government pays for itself.
It's great.
It's great for you.
Listen, I have a lot of interaction with the IRS.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys do. A lot of interaction with them. Let's say I talked to 50 guys from the IRS.
Okay.
3 have been helpful.
Yeah.
Fire them. Fire the rest of them.
Oscar winner Angelina Jolie did not have breast cancer. Angelina Jolie was not sick. All she had was a faulty gene and a few bad numbers. An 87% risk of breast cancer, a 50% risk of ovarian cancer, and one more number, 56, the age when her mother died of cancer. So as she wrote in the New York Times today, she had both breasts removed, making her perhaps an extreme example of a trend. Lindsay, you also had a test on the BRCA1 gene, which is the gene where Angelina Jolie has a mutation, and you also had not been diagnosed with cancer. May I ask, why did you elect to have the operation?
Well, I have a very strong family history of both breast and ovarian cancer. My grandmother and great-grandmother died a week apart, both from breast cancer. My mom is an 18-year breast, 17-year ovarian cancer survivor. So when I found out that I had these incredibly high odds, I didn't want to just sit back and wait to develop the disease that had struck my family for generations. So 7 years ago when I was 23, I opted for the risk-reducing double mastectomy. And I can say honestly, it's a decision I haven't looked back on since.
And Peggy, you've written very powerfully about this. Are you worried that some women may overreact to Miss Jolie's story?
Yeah, you know, I want to say, when I hear a story like Lindsay's, it breaks my heart that that's the choice that she had to face. And it is a totally medically warranted choice. And what Angelina Jolie did was also medically advisable. But the problem that I'm worried about is that women of average risk or women with low-grade cancer will over-identify with Angelina Jolie and think that they're in the same category as her. A BRCA mutation is a very rare thing. It affects 0.6% of the general population. And the choices that face those women are stark, difficult, and personal. But they're not the same choices that face the rest of us who are at average risk, or even those of us who are at high risk but don't have that kind of familial history.
One of the confidential items that Bradley Manning is accused of leaking was a video of U.S. Apache helicopters gunning down more than a dozen people in a Baghdad suburb. The official story of the 2007 attack said the victims were Shiite fighters who had been firing machine guns and rocket-propelled grenades at American soldiers. But in the video, as you can see, there are just a few men in the street, including a couple of men who wound up being Reuters reporters carrying cameras. Now later, when a van came by to pick up the injured, the helicopters fired once again, killing more people and injuring 2 children. Well, Lynn, let me ask you one more question. The big debate about Bradley Manning among Americans, and even among Americans on the left, is should he be freed? There's a large free Bradley Manning community, or those who think, I admire what he did, we have a right to know what's being done in our name, but he did break the law, and he needs to pay a penalty for it. Where do you stand?
I think he's paid enough penalty already. He's been in prison for 1,000 days. I haven't seen any casualties for what he did. the people that, for example, are responsible for the war crimes in the leak and the collateral murder, none of them have been held accountable.
The factory explosion in West Texas last week that killed an estimated 14 people and injured about 200 was a disaster and a tragedy, but it should not have been a surprise. According to the Daily Beast, residents of West had speculated about it for years, and the EPA fined the company for a deficient risk management plan back in 2006. But despite that fine, the plant explosion last week exposed a catastrophic lack of oversight. OSHA hadn't inspected the West Fertilizer Company since 1985, and the Department of Homeland Security was not properly overseeing the ammonium nitrate on site. See, that's the stuff Tim McVeigh used to blow up a building in Oklahoma City, and DHS is supposed to be involved whenever you store more than 400 pounds of it. Well, last year the West Fertilizer Company stored 270 tons of it. But maybe craziest of all was the town's zoning. You see, over the years, a community grew up right next to this building-sized bomb. What was a high school doing within 2,000 feet of it? A middle school and a hospital were even closer, and practically right on top, a nursing home, one of the buildings that was destroyed in the blast.